So, very good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for joining for today's session. So, I would like to officially welcome everybody to our session today. This is the third session in our series. Psychosocial support for persons with disabilities is what we are looking at today. And we aim to delve into the aspects of psychosocial assistance and its unique application for individuals with disabilities, particularly in the context of disasters. And we have a very distinguished trainer here, and she will guide us through the nuanced exploration, emphasizing the importance of inclusive strategies that consider the diverse needs of the community. And thank you all for joining us today. And I would like to encourage everyone to actively listen, ask questions, put it up in the chat box. Let's make this more an interactive session. And without any further delay, I would like to welcome our trainer for the session, Ms. Farhana Nazmeen. She is currently working as a mental health and psychosocial support technical specialist at Handicap International, Humanity and Inclusion, currently posted in Bangladesh. And thank you so much for accepting our invitation and coming and for training us. I hand it over to you for next.
Thank you very much, Marine, for introducing me. As already you have given my introduction, just a little information I can share that I am basically a clinical psychologist, and then I have received my training on mental health from Netherlands. And recently, I also have accredited on quality rights, and I have provided that training in France for a group of humanitarian workers coming from different parts of the world and the organization. That's it. Shall we go for other participants' introductions, or what do you prefer?
Yeah, we can have an introduction from the participants.
Okay.
Should I call out?
Yes, you can do so.
Good evening, ma'am. This is Subbulakshmi from Chennai.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, good evening, ma'am. I am Dwarika Prasad Noni from the Mountain Children's Foundation, Dehradun, Uttarakhand. Thank you.
Welcome.
Kripa, do you want to go ahead and introduce?
Hello, ma'am. I'm Kripa Lakshmi. I'm from Chennai. I'm doing my Master of Public Health, specializing in public health emergency and disaster management. I'm currently doing my internship with Spare India.
Good afternoon, ma'am. I'm Dr. Atinder Pal Singh Bali from J&K. I'm a National Master Trainer of the Indian Red Cross in the Red Arc. Thank you.
Yeah. Dr. Eda, if you were speaking, you're not audible. Okay, so sir, Ankita ma'am.
Hello.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, hello, ma'am. Myself Ankita Sri, and I'm from Bihar. I'm doing some kinds of social work and in education sector also. Thank you.
Thank you. And look into things, sir. I don't think he's here. We also have Dr. Ada from Mysore. I think she got disconnected. She might come back again.
Okay.
How about everyone?
Okay. Thank you very much. So I think we can shift to the presentation now, as we have done our introduction. First of all, till to now, I would like to know your understanding regarding persons with disability. Anyone can say something. In this moment, I am showing the presentation. I'm sharing my screen, and in this time you can please go ahead, just giving me a little bit of description. What do you think regarding person with disabilities and their mental health? What would be like that?
Disability means the person who cannot move themselves and they are wholly dependable on others.
Mm-hmm. Yes, very nice. Anyone else?
Am I audible now?
Yes, you are.
Okay, okay. Hi, good afternoon. This is Aida from Mysore. Earlier, I was trying to introduce myself, but my speaker, I think I was not audible. So I just
Okay.
logged out and logged in. Yeah, disability could be any type of condition that affects our mental and physical health, where we will not be able to function normally like any other typical people. This could be the short and sweet from my side explanation on disability.
Yes, almost. So now if we go to know about the person with disability, first of all, we need to think about another component that is, okay, already we have done the ice-breaking session. We know the objective of our today's discussion, so let's get into the discussion. Defining the impairment is really equal important to understand the disability. Impairment is mostly a condition when a person's body part or organ is lose its functionality. The impairments can be temporary or permanent. And usually the types of impairment, we can see the physical impairment, hearing impairment, visual impairment, intellectual and multiple impairment. And also it needs to be remembered that some people might have the multiple impairments at the same time. So when a person loses the function of a body part or organ, it is, we are saying, or we are calling it as impairment. But when this impairment also makes a barrier for them, like environmental barrier to access any resources, anything or something, in that cases, this is called disability. So not all the impaired person is a disabled person with disability, but all the person with disability is a person with impairment. And if we try to think what kinds of challenges they are facing, usually we are seeing that physical accessibility barriers is in most cases, like when a person with disability is trying to enter into a building, but there is no ramps for physically impaired person. In that case, this is a physical accessibility barriers for them. On the other hand, the communication barriers is another challenge. If they are not able to do the communication in a proper way, in the way they are willing to do so, like a person who cannot speak or who cannot hear, in that case, maybe the person needs someone who knows the sign language, but there is no available sign language or interpreter. In that case, this makes a communication barrier for them. And the next is the attitudinal barriers. It means mostly comes from the social stigma and discrimination we are seeing in the society or in the community. And another challenges we are seeing that access to healthcare, and this is mostly related to the attitude of the service provider, or even the physical accessibility in the healthcare premises, or the service providers supportive nature is there or not. These kinds of challenges also is another barrier for them. And the community barriers. Sometimes community itself is not giving the enough access to the person to receive the care they are in need, or the community is not accepting them or is not welcoming them to participate in, and there are lots of restrictions for them. So this is their community barriers, and sometimes we see some barriers that is the policy barriers. It means that there is some law, that due to the law, the person cannot get access into any services or into any jobs like that. Sometimes we see that, especially in the armed forces, there are many laws. Due to the laws, maybe a person with disability is not being able to enter into the job. So this is the policy barriers. Okay. If we now want to see the just 1 second, my screen is not going. Okay, the interaction of disability, psychosocial well-being, and crisis. Are you able to see my screen properly? Can you confirm, please, anyone?
We can see the title and
Okay,
rest is blank.
okay, yes. If we want to see the impact of the crisis situation on disability, mostly it comes as the evacuation challenges. It means that when there is any disaster, it can be natural disaster, man-made disaster, the person with disability facing the evacuation challenges, there is not enough transportation to carry them out, or sometimes the people or the family members leaving them alone at the house, and there is no enough time to evacuate them. So this is one challenge for them. And dependence on assistive device, that already one of my colleagues have mentioned, that they are very much dependent on something or onto others. That is that without the assistive device they are not being able to move. So this dependence on assistive device also makes their life very much difficult in the crisis situation, because during the crisis situation, maybe they lost their assistive device. So this is really very much tough for them to live without their assistive devices. Then the communication barrier, I already mentioned that during the crisis situation, maybe there are announcement is ongoing, but who cannot hear properly, maybe they are not listening what's the an announcement is going on, or sometimes there is some posters is hanged on with the messages regarding the crisis or the disaster, or the conflicting situations like that. But due to their who cannot see, I mean the who have the visionary impairments, they have these kinds of barriers to see the posters and read. So these kinds of communication barriers is being observed during the crisis situation. Then the limited accessibility of the emergency facilities. This is also very much related to the evacuation challenges. If you know regarding the cyclone, there are lots of cyclone center. I'm just giving the example. And who is having the physical impairment or any other kinds of impairment, they have the less accessibility in the shelter house. Then the health risk and complications. During the crisis situations, their health risk and complications is really getting very worse, but due to the situation, they are not being able to access their health needs and get rid out of it. This is also related to the access to medications and disruptions of support services. In a normal situation, maybe their life is ongoing or they are living their life somehow, but during the crisis situation, their support service system is completely collapsed, and due to that, they are having much difficulties. And susceptibility to experiencing, sorry, I cannot see due to this title actually. Susceptibility to experiencing violence, there are risk is getting so heightened due to the crisis situation. Their protection concern is being very much compromised. So this is also related to their disability conditions. And if we want to know the psychosocial well-being in crisis situation, definitely there are the most common is the mental health challenges. In that time, their mental health status is going very urgent. Their situation very much urgent. This is one challenges for them. Stigma and discrimination gets so much high during the crisis situation. In the normal situation, sometimes their neighbors or the family members or the other person in their circumstance, they are accepting the people. But in the crisis situation, sometimes the discrimination is very much prominent, and their vulnerability also getting so much increased, and they are at a risk of abuse, risk of violence like that. And there are lots of barriers to participate. Usually, in a normal situation, maybe their opinion is being granted, but in the crisis situation, they are being very much discriminated, and their participation, equal participation, is being hampered. Their coping mechanism and resilience gets completely collapsed sometimes, and disruptions of routine and independence. It means their daily life routine and their independence. I mean, the opposite of the dependency of the assistive devices gets so urgent, and their social support and inclusions also being compromised. So till to now, is this clear to all? Do you have any questions? Anyone please confirm before I go to next session, next slide. Okay, as till now, no one is raised their hand. I cannot see anyone's hand is raised, so maybe there is no question. So I'm going to next slide. So now we are going to psychosocial needs of persons with disability. Here, is there any volunteer that, who can give me one or two lines that what kinds of needs usually we can see among the persons with disability? Anyone? Hello?
Can you please repeat the question, ma'am?
Yes, sure. Okay, let me minimize this. As now we are going to the next discussion, it will be on psychosocial needs of persons with disability. So anyone or among you can give me one or two lines that what kinds of needs a person with disability may express, or what would be their need regarding psychosocial.
The main thing is they will be feeling avoided from the other crowds, ma'am. If someone is going and speaking to them itself, and they have to listen itself is a very good support for them, ma'am.
Very good. Thank you very much. It's so amazing. You are completely right. Yes, so first of all, their identity and self-esteem that is related or just now, Didi, what's your name?
Lakshmi, ma'am.
Okay, Shubhalakshmi. Thank you. Oh, the Shubhalakshmi Didi, what said? It is related to that the person, how he or she is identified them and their self-esteem, how or the other people is listening to them and how they are accepting their opinion. This is related to the person's identity and self-esteem. Then empowerment and autonomy, how the person is able to take their decision to what to do and what not to do. Then their next needs comes with access to communication, information support system, how they are accessing the communication system or the social support from their community and from their society like that. Then resilience and adaptive coping strategies. This is very important because their in a crisis situation, and when there is any emergency, any crisis situation, mostly everyone's resilience and coping strategies is taking a vital role. Whose coping strategies is really very strong, their resilience is very strong in the they have that capacity to deal with the crisis, deal with the emergency in a very good way, in a positive way. But when a person, it comes about the question with related to the person with disability. If the person with disability has a negative coping strategies, or their resilience is weaker, in that case, it really it brings more difficulty for them. So this is also one of their psychosocial needs to be protected, to be supported, that their resilience and coping strategies will be positive and adaptive. Then legal protection and rights. This is the component where a person with disabilities rights will be protected, and they will have those autonomy to take decision for them. There will be no forced service or anything, that they will be institutionalized or anything like that without their will. Then respect for autonomy and inclusive education and employment also is their needs, psychosocial needs to be protected, and the accessible healthcare services, social inclusion, cultural sensitivity, recreational opportunity, and celebrating diversity. Means that they have the rights to be included in the community, and whatever their orientation is, it can be a different psychosocial sexual orientation, or it can be their different philosophical orientation, but this needs to be dealt with a sensitivity, and their recreational opportunities also will be protected, and their diversity needs to be celebrated. And how we can do this? We need to make the bridges and destroying the barriers. And how we can do this? Inclusive MHPSS requires us to address all types of barriers. Just addressing one will not lead to equal access. It means, like, if we make an infrastructure, that infrastructure is very much accessible physically or any other in other aspects also, but the service provider, especially the MHP staff, is having a negative attitude, or not, they are not welcoming the people with disabilities. In that case, our bridge will not be built. Rather, focusing only one component, like the physical accessible infrastructure, we also have to think the other challenges, what we have seen in 2 or 3 slides back. We also have to ensure that all the challenges will be equally managed, and all the barriers have to be minimized. And then we also have to focus on the building the bridges, so that we will be able to go to the next stage. Then promoting dignity, empowerment for persons with disability. For that, we need to focus on the United Nations Convention for Rights of the Person with Disabilities. It has total 8 guiding principles. And these 8 guiding principles will ensure this dignity, agency, and empowerment of the persons with disability. How? Here is the point, that first of all, respect for inherent dignity, individual autonomy, including the freedom to make one's own choices, and independence of persons. And non-discrimination, we cannot discriminate among themselves. Sometimes you may find any cases person with disability, but comes from a different indigenous people, from an indigenous group, or comes from a group of people that have a different sexual orientation, but we cannot make any discrimination over them. Then full and effective participation and inclusion in society, another guiding principle, and respect for difference and acceptance of persons with disabilities as part of human diversity and humanity, and equality of opportunity, accessibility, equality between men and women, And if sometimes we may see that if the person with disability is a woman, we have much empathy towards the person with disability, the women with disability rather a man with disability. Even this is a man with disability, sometimes we think that this man cannot take any decision or cannot take the responsibility of his family. So we cannot make these kinds of discrimination, and we need to ensure the equality among the men and women. And respect for the evolving capacities of children with disabilities, and respect for the rights of children with disabilities to preserve their identities. So till to this slide, is there any questions or any things to raise? I think there is no question. So let's move to the next slide. Sometimes we can see that people with disabilities are citizens with human rights, including the right to MHPSS, the right to live in the community, and the right to make decisions about their own treatment. And how we can do so? Firstly, the collaboration is really necessary. Stakeholders who are working in that area, they need to come together and make a collaborative decision about the MHPSS needs. Then targeted programming. It means that when we are working with a group of people, we need to focus on people with disabilities and the families, not only the people with disabilities or only on the caregiver. If I give an example from our project, that sometimes some service providers are design their program only based on the caregiver. That if it is livelihood program, in that case, the livelihood or entrepreneur is given to the caregiver rather than the people with disability or person with disability. So the programming cannot be in such way. The programming needs to be designed in such a way where the focus will be the person with disability and along with the families as well. Then bringing MHPSS closer to people with disability, like mobile information and services in communities, school, etc. Participation of people with disabilities in MHPSS sessions, like working closely with persons with disabilities and their families and their representative organization for information sharing. Improving physical access, it means that our infrastructure needs to be accessible in such a way that all types of person with impairment can get access to that to that infrastructure. Then transforming attitudes of MHPSS staff. It means the service provider, that their myths, beliefs, assumption, and their attitude needs to be transformed in a positive attitude and positive apprehension, so that they will greet the person with disability in a way that will be warm and welcoming, and there will be no judgmental apprehension or very much even not to show the sympathy, they need to be empathetic rather being sympathetic. So this transformation of the attitude is really very vital component. And improving communication in MHPSS with people with disabilities, both verbal and non-verbal communications. Okay, so before moving to next module, do you have any questions till to now? Are you there, all my colleagues?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, thanks for the confirmation. So I'm not sure that if the sessions are going on well, that you are understanding, because we are completely from different culture, different country. I don't know that my accent is clear to you or not.
I have a question.
Sorry?
I have a doubt.
Okay, please.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So you were talking about sensitizing the MHPSS staffs about being empathetic towards the disabled people in times of emergencies.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure about what the role of these staffs are, but I would like to know the role of first responders that go to the rescue area and rescue and those first responders. What kind of sensitization could be done to those people to, because they also interact with the people with disabilities.
Yeah, thank you very much for this question. Actually, just now we were shifting gradually, slowly, that how we a crisis responder can communicate and how they can interact with the person with disability. Therefore, also I can give a small example. Firstly, needs to ensure the communications is being accessible to the person with disability. Sometimes the communication is being only on the radio, but who is having the hearing impairment, that person cannot hear the information, so there is a barrier for that person. So this needs to be considered, or this information sharing or information dissemination really needs to be in such a way that can be accessible to all the persons with disability. This is one thing. And second thing is the approach, what to do and what not to do. So in our next module, this will also be addressed, that what kinds of behavior or how the apprehension can be, not only the MHPC staff, but all the service provider or the crisis responder. So through those etiquette, these kinds of communication or the rapport can be established. If this answers your queries, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay. So then next move to let's move to the next slide. This is the inclusive communication and interaction. From this picture, what you can base. Cover this a little bit. This is a picture of different kinds of facial expression. Do you think that this picture can be one mode of communications, and how this picture can be used? Okay, so let me explain. These kinds of picture, it can be used with the person with disability, without the vision impairment, with all others, to understand the degree of pain or degree of their mental health status, like at what status you are now, currently you are. Like if you show this picture, and they can guide us, or they can point out that currently my pain is here, or currently my mood is here. Through these kinds of picture, we can get a status from them. So using pictures is one communication mode to communicate with the person with disability who don't have the vision impairment. Then there are lots of picture you can see here. Actually, this is adapted in our context. This has been originally developed in Iraq context. So you can see some Arabic letter over here, but now we are using this. So there are lots of pictures. Each picture is giving one notation. Like if we see this picture, that if we show this picture and ask navigate that what's your name, in that case they would be able to write or to say that this is my name, like that. So using picture can be one communication mode to communicate with the person with disability, especially for them who is having speech problem. Here are some other pictures. If we want to know that in which part of your body is having any hurts or is having any pain, in that case they can point. Okay, so here is case story. I would like to request one of the participants to read it for us. Is there anyone who wants to volunteer?
Or else you can just call anyone.
Okay. Sorry, I could not hear.
I was saying, or else you can just call anyone from the list.
Actually, as I'm in a presentation mode, so I cannot see anyone's name over here. Is there
Okay.
anyone wants to volunteer, or you also can nominate anyone? Yes, I can see from there. Mm,
Am I audible? I can
Yes,
read.
you are.
yes, you are.
Yeah. Communicating with people with disabilities in MHPSS, case study 1. Mustafa, a 25-year-old man with psychosocial disability, was admitted to the male medical ward. Every morning during the doctor's visit, the doctor never talked with him. He just need the notes and instructed the nurse what to do next. Mustafa was very frightened and frustrated because he never got an opportunity to talk with the doctor and didn't understand what was going on. When talking to the other nurses, the doctor used derogatory language, referring to him as the mentally ill patient, and made fun of the way he spoke. What went wrong with the communication here? What should the doctor have done differently?
Yes. Okay, so now I would like to make a request to I forgot the name. Hannah, right? Hannah? Okay, can you please make a 2 Zoom room for us?
Sure.
Okay, okay. Please make 2 rooms, and in one room, name it the wrong, and another one name it as right. And we would like to discuss in the wrong group that what was the wrong it has been done in this case study. And at the right group, they will make that what would be the right approach for this case study to communicate. So we will do a little group work on this case study. Is this fine?
Definitely, I'll make the group.
Okay, my dear colleagues, is this fine for all of you?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So now Anna will help us to make two room and we'll not have a long discussion on that. Maximum 10 minutes, maybe we can discuss on that.
Uh,
Allow me to begin. My mobile was negative, that's why I just restart the mobile.
And after entering all the participants in the Zoom room, I also need to keep the time track. Would you be able to do so? And after the 10 minutes, the room will be closed and everyone will become in this main room.
Definitely.
Okay, thank you very much.
So everyone, you might have a notification in your screen. So kindly click and yeah, you can join the group.
Okay, thank you very much.
If you're facing any difficulty in getting in, please let me know.
Yes, I'm also here also. If you have any questions during the discussion.
Priyanka and Subbulakshmi. Can you hear me?
where the doctor was. Am I audible?
Yes,
Yes,
you
you
are.
are.
Okay. So, in the second scenario, where the doctor just wrote the prescription and handed over to the nurse, so the issues which I see are lack of attention, lack of built up of the doctor-patient relationship, which could have developed if if the doctor could have listened to the patient properly, then lack of attention, then lack of empathy from the side of doctor, then lack of trust because the patient uh, could not interact with the doctor, and so um, um, so there is a lack of trust between the like from the patient point of view, and and yeah, so yeah, he was as I told, empathy also, where the doctor just he told something about the patient to the nurse about his mental illness. He did not he did not paid attention that the patient might listen to it and may feel bad about it. So yeah, so there was lack of attention, emotional bonding, empathy, lack of doctor patient relationship, lack of trust.
Thank you, Priyanka. It was very well articulated. Thank you very much.
uh,
Now
thank
now we can shift to the next group who were supposed to write the good things or what could be done by the doctor to address a good apprehension.
From the group number one, I think Dr. Ida is representing them.
Yes.
Dr. Ida, can you hear us?
Yes, I can
Yes,
hear you.
I can hear.
Yeah.
Yes.
Come on, Hannah. Can you please repeat? I was out of network, so I just
Yeah.
rejoined again.
Yeah. So the other group described about what was the things that went wrong in the scenario. And can you explain whatever you discussed in your group of what could have
Yeah,
the doctor done?
yes, definitely. As he was, Mustafa, he is a young boy who is just at his, adolescent adult who is 25, with lots of fear and anxiety, admitted to the medical ward and not psychiatric ward. I would rather say that the doctor could have better rapport and communication so that the person would have, uh, uh, he would develop some good trust, rapport, and his fear, anxiety, frustration, or apprehension would have been, removed. And definitely, as we say, very well, it is given in the case study saying that the doctor was only entering and leaving the ward as if he was not talking with the person-to-person relation or to a human being rather than to the object. So that is one point we could see here. So he could rather do it in a better way, having direct communication where, inculcating direct trust, whereby that itself would help him to heal better rather than any other medications or putting it even in other, derogatory way of giving the statements as is mentally ill or whatever, which is definitely very harsh from a medical professional saying these things. That's it. So mainly the communication gap or the way of giving the what you say the respect, the honor, or treating the person or a patient as very low at low level rather than giving mutual respect.
Mm.
Being a professional medical.
Yes. Thank you very much, Didi. You also narrated this in very nice way, very much compacted way. That especially you have mentioned that the direct communication was really important here. That mutual respect and honor needs to be placed there, and establishing a rapport was another factor that would have been another factor to establish. Thank you very much for to the both of the group. Both the group has narrated this picture in a very compacted way. So now we have seen that what can be done and what should not be done also. So if you permit me, then I would like to go to the next slides. Shall I?
Yes.
Okay. Now, we would like to see some language matters, what kinds of language we can use and what kinds of language should not be used. Use person first language. It was not be present in the Mustafa's case. What we have seen, the doctor was not talking with him. Mustafa never get an opportunity to talk with the doctor. So use person first language. The preferred expression is persons or people with disabilities needs to be said rather the mentally ill or PWD, like these kinds of narration. Patient, or we also can use, let me bring all the words first. Person with a physical disability or patient who uses a wheelchair, boy with an intellectual disability, women with psychosocial disabilities, exception, deaf person. For who cannot hear, for them maybe we can use some sign language, but for other we need to be use a very appropriate and very etiquette word for them. And don't use any negative terminology like the person is no, mentally ill, or like this kinds of word, person who has a disability, not person who is suffering from a disability, person without disability, but not normal or healthy people. That sometimes we say that he is a normal people to differentiate with another person with disability. We cannot use these kinds of word. Then person with a mental health condition, this is the right term. We cannot use that crazy person, mentally ill person. That will not be appropriate language. And here is some don't say and do say types of differentiation you can see. And when I will share the slide, you can have a look on this. I am not going through very deeply because already we have discussed a lot on this language. Sorry. Okay. And here are some generalities. This is also already been discussed that when we are going to communicate with a person with disability, we need to keep in mind that whenever you are offering any assistance, you need to ask the person, just not to go and start assisting the person. It will be a wrong approach. We need to ask the person. Then be sensitive about the physical contact. Sometimes we think that, oh, this person cannot walk properly, so we should not hold this person and help him to walk. We need to be sensitive. And one more information I would like to mention here. For the person with the physical disability or who cannot walk and who is using any wheelchair, remember this: the wheelchair wheelchair being a part of their body. So whenever you are touching the wheelchair, also you need to take the permission from the person. Even if it is a object, you cannot touch the person without taking the prior permission. So be sensitive about this contact. Any kinds of physical contact, we need to be very much confirmed before we just touch. As much as possible, speak directly to the person with the disability, not always talking to the caregiver. Never channel conversation through a third person, even if it is his or her family member. We should try to talk with the person with the concern, and don't make assumption that, oh, I know this person cannot hear me, or this person cannot understand me, or this person will not be able to describe his problem. We should not make any prior assumptions. So this is the general tips how we can interact with the people with disabilities. So till to this slide, is everything is going on well? Are you with me, or you need something more better understanding, or any questions? Any of you just confirm from the group.
It's going well now.
Okay. So now we are moving to the next slide or next content, that is the tailoring psychosocial support intervention, especially in the emergency situation. During any crisis moment, how we can tailor our psychosocial interventions. Here we need to remember 4 A's. It is A for provision of inclusive MHPCS programming. If we want to make our MHPCS programming inclusive, then we need to ensure this 4A. The first A goes for available. Is the service is available in the area we are trying to program or trying to implement our activities? Is the service is available? Then we also need to check with the accessibility. Is the service is accessible? I mean, the infrastructural or the service premises is accessible for the persons with disability to reach to the services before planning any MHPSS program over there. And also we need to check with the affordability. Is the service is affordable to the person with concern, to the beneficiaries, like the cost are another major barrier we have already been discussed. So is the cost of the transportation cost or cost of the services opportunity cost, is this affordable for the beneficiaries? If it is not affordable, then it will be really difficult for them to receive the care. And the adaptable, as you know that all time always the MHPSS service is a very much person-centered approach. So if the service has this capacity to adapt to transform according to the need of the culture, need of the person with concern, services, attitude of the service provider, equipment, is this adaptive or not? This is really very much important, because you know that reasonable accommodation is very much important component for providing any services for the person with disability, including the MHPSS. So the equipment we are going to use, that needs to be adaptable, and definitely the infrastructure that needs to be adaptive. Maybe in before the infrastructure was not accessible, but when we are going to implement the MHPSS programming, our design needs to be follow the universal design, and the reasonable accommodation needs to be ensured. Otherwise, it will not be possible to make the MHPSS program inclusive. So these 4A needs to be ensured before we planning for any inclusive MHPSS programming. If you want, you can write this 4A. This is really a very vital slide. Shall I go to the next slide, or you need a bit time on this slide?
You can take screenshot, ma'am. You can move on.
Okay, thank you. So here is a very important component, that is the minimum response during an emergency. First of all, the coordination. Whenever we are planning to act in any emergency, our response needs to ensure the minimum standard, and this 11 component is the minimum response and minimum response standard, and it has been derived from the Interagency Standing Committee guideline. I'm not very much sure how many of you is very much well known about the Interagency of Standing Committee. If not, I would like to give a little bit of description about them. Any of you can please confirm me that do you known about this IASC, Interagency Standing Committee?
And I think a little bit context would help us.
Okay. So Interagency Standing Committee is the committee who are actually leading the emergency mental health and psychosocial support component during any emergency in any country. And through a collaborative approaches, all the services is being programmed or being managed by the different actors like Handicap International also. And each country wherever an emergency or any conflicting situation is going on and there is MHPSS component, there is also one group is formed that is called technical working group, and all the MHPSS actors in that context, they needs to be coordinated with that technical working group, which is also been very much interlinked with that interagency standing committee. This interagency standing committee has a major role on coordinating and also producing the technical documents. And now what the slides I'm showing, this is also one of their production regarding the MHPSS support during the emergency for the person with disability. So this is the guiding principle which needs to be ensured to ensure the minimum response standard. The first of all is the coordination. Here the coordination means that the identify a disability focal point within the MHPSS technical working group in that context, and advocate for a disability focal point to be appointed in all relevant ministries to deal with disability related requirements in that context, in emergency context, and ensure that disability actors attend and contribute to that MHPSS technical working group and clusters meeting. And also this coordination needs to be look after on the MHPSS appeals for funding. I'm not sure that how much you know that whenever there is a fund crisis, first of all the cutoff is being done over the MHPSS. So through this technical working group, the coordination takes a place to integrate disability inclusion consideration into MHPSS appeals for funding as well. And then also the coordination needs to be done in mapping the mainstreaming service provider and create a service referral pathway. So whoever needs the services, they can be referred following that service referral pathway. And then the second point to ensure the minimum response is the assessment, monitoring, and evaluation. Here, we need to consult with meaningfully involved disability actors through the key informant interviews or focus group discussion or need assessment. And this conceptualization, implementation, dissemination of assessment related to the MHPSS requirements needs to be inclusive of persons with disabilities. So this to do this, actually we need to conduct assessments of mental health and psychosocial issues among the affected population in the emergency context, and also to initiate participatory systems for monitoring and evaluation by the actors, MHPSS actors. And then the next point is the protection and human rights. Sorry, I'm really sorry. Maybe you are listening some noises here as I'm sitting in common ground, so it is being very much noisy. Excuse me for that. So the third point is the protection and human rights framework through MHPSS. Here we need to consider how to apply a human rights framework through MHPSS and how to identify, monitor, prevent, and respond to protection threats and failure through social protection of the person with disability. And then human resource, it means that we also need to look after after recruiting a group of service provider or the MHPSS professional and capacitize them in such a way that they will be able to provide a quality service for the affected population and enforce those staff on the codes of conduct and ethical guidelines, so that we will not see cases like what we've seen a few slides before about the Mustafa cases. So this course of conduct also needs to be ensured through this capacitized human resource. And we also need to organize orientation training of aid workers in MHPSs to make a capacitized and skilled human resource pool. Then community mobilization and support. Here we also needs to look after that in the community we can establish some self-help group or social support network that will facilitate conditions for appropriate communal, cultural, or spiritual or religious healing practice, so that their own community support system will be mobilized. It is really vital or important. Sometimes we think that, okay, as MHPSS professional or service provider, I need to implement some very much scientific or very much authentic intervention. But the true fact is that how the person is being reared up or brought up in his own context, these natural products help the person to heal. So his own communal, cultural, or spiritual or religious aspect sometimes helps the persons to heal much better than any external support system. Then comes the health service. It means that how the health service is being provided. It's not only related to the mental health, but also related to the other health services. Those needs to be considered here. Just a minute, please. Here, psychological and social consideration needs to be think of in provision of general healthcare as well, and their access to care for persons with disability and persons with severe mental health disorder needs to be protected and cared for. Then the education also needs to come in such a way that will be adjusted and adaptive, as we have mentioned that the education needs to have the capacity to be adaptive in such a way that will be captured by the children with disabilities. And also we need to strengthen the capacity of the school staff and teachers and raise their awareness on the importance of reducing stigma and discrimination around disability in the schools. Then dissemination of information. It needs to be considered the information will be disseminated in such a way so all types of disabled person with disability will be able to capture the information. The universal design needs to be ensured. Reasonable accommodation needs to be ensured when the information dissemination will take place. Then food security and nutrition. Here we need to consult with and meaningfully involve different disability actors to ensure that food assistance and delivery will be in a disability inclusive manner, so that all types of emergency, including any pandemics and others, will apply the universal design features and reasonable accommodation mechanism. And then lastly, it comes the shelter and site planning, water and sanitation. These components also needs to be designed in such a way in the universal designing and reasonable accommodation will come, and the person with disability will get the opportunity to have the shelter in a respectful and dignified way, and the site will be planned in such a way that will be accessible for the person with disability. So these are the 11 standard mechanism that needs to be ensured to keep the standard of the minimum response during an emergency. If this slide is clear to you all, I have been go up very fastly. Sorry for that. Or any point you needs me to repeat.
Yes, ma'am, it was all clear.
Then tailoring psychosocial support intervention. Firstly, we have to apply person-centered approach, not to the community-centered or in another mechanism. We need to do the individual care planning. It means that when a person will come with their symptoms and the sufferings, we need to plan the care according to the individual signs, symptoms, sufferings, not to the other circumstances only. Then promoting the resilience and coping skills among people with disability. That is also another approach for tailoring psychosocial support intervention. And fostering a sense of community and social support. It means that we need to ensure the person's social support network will be strengthened and they will feel that they are in a community and the community is quite supportive for them. And definitely when we are going to work with any person with disability, this is really very effective if we also consider working with the caregiver, especially for the children with disability. So how to work with caregivers? If we want to know, then here is a link has been inserted. You can click on that link and you will find more materials or resources from there. So I would like to request, almost we are done. Before going to this segment, I would like to request you all from all over the discussion. Do you have any questions, anything that was not very much clear and we could not capture in a very swift way? You can mention, please. Anyone?
It was clear for me. I request other participants if they have to share.
Okay. If everything was being clear to you all, then maybe we can take 2 minutes more and write it down that what you are taking as a key takeaways from today's session or what you have learned from today's session. Just write 2 or 3 points, whatever you learned and what was more perfect for you or more appropriate for you or have added in your new learning segments. Maybe you can write it on your device.
Okay, I got a little bit problem. Sorry for that. Because actually I was not ready to take my mobile phone. Anyway, from tomorrow, what we can do? I will personally bring my personal laptop and I will keep it side by side so that I can follow one and I can work on another. So hopefully this type of class, what we see this time, maybe will be not happy.
Yeah, I just want to highlight one point here.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I could not hear you clearly.
No, I just want to highlight one point here.
Okay, please.
Yeah, throughout the session, one thing what eye catching was that even though with the disability and with consideration of the um emergency crisis or situation or events, the golden tips which you mentioned, like ask permission and that is before you assist, and also being sensitive to their physical contact, their moving wheelchairs or something like that. That was really something I could take home today from your lesson. Thank you very much for that.
Okay, thank you very much for sharing your
Also like to
highlights.
second that, because I was also not aware that we should ask permission for touching the wheelchair.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
also a
That too,
lesson for me.
that too during crisis and emergencies. I really wonder how much we really look into it, but something we can always, register in our mind. That is good to know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Kripa, you can speak if you want to add something.
Yes. Throughout the session, when I'm told about resilience in people with disabilities, I realized one thing. It is not about being resilient during times of emergencies. I think these people should be given fair chance in life after or despite their disabilities at first, so that they'll have a sense of belonging in the community and feeling of oneself within the community. So that will, I think, will build their coping capacity and their resilience at times of emergencies. Because when they are thought everything is ended, when we give them a fair chance of having a good life, when they taste the life of having a good quality life, I think they'll definitely be resilient enough to fight in an emergency situation. I think any other capacity building program that we do among communities and building awareness, I think these people should also be included in all those things.
Adding to that, I also, one of the learnings that I had was like, please correct me, ma'am, if I'm wrong, but if I'm assuming myself as a like a PSS worker in an emergency situation. So, and if I encounter a person with disability, maybe find out people facing similar issues and create a community setup along with their caregivers. So they kind of have a sense of belonging, um, even though they might have lost their assistive devices and they're facing like hundreds of vulnerabilities. So yeah, that is another learning for me.
Thank you very much. And there is no right, no wrong. It's all is our perception. Fine. Thank you very much for your nice sharing. Okay, is there anyone else to share? So I guess there is none. So I would like to request if you have any feedback for me regarding the slides, regarding the sessions I have facilitate. You feel free to provide the feedback, or if you don't feel comfortable to write here or to say here, you can place it to the coordinator as well. And I would really appreciate to receive your feedback. That will also help to improvise the slides and also my facilitation. Thank you very much. I'm really requesting to know your feedback.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Welcome.
For feedback, can I call Ankita
Sure.
or Dwarika sir, if you want to add anything?
Thank you so much, ma'am. It was very interactive session, and I have learned a lot. Uh, Mostly that one thing I have learned, you cannot touch even the wheelchair without the permission of that person. So it was a very different experience for me. Thank you so much.
Welcome. Thank you very much
Thank you.
for letting me know this. Thank you very much.
Sure. Since this is an end of the session and we have gone a bit above our time,
Yes.
and I would like to close the session. And before closing, I would like to extend my deep thank you to our dinner today. Ma'am, the session was very interesting. It was very interactive. And we learned a lot of practical lessons. And the slides were also very interesting. It was very key. And I would like to extend a big thank you on behalf of Air India and Americas for your time giving us this information. Thank you so much, and we request you to share the PPT so that we can further disseminate to others. And also, we have a recording of the session which we'll be uploading in YouTube for further reference. And I would also like to thank our participants who spend this much time for the session. Thank you so much, everyone. And so, as you all know, our upcoming session is on it's actually happening tomorrow, and we have our speakers from NIMHANS joining the session. So I request you all to join and also register to the session. The QR code which you can see in the screen, if you scan that, you can actually register. I request everyone to do that, and see you all tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you all. Okay, bye. Goodbye.
Thank you, Farhana. Thank you all.
Thank you.